Okay, I think we're live now.
Maybe more, but right now I am concentrating very much on
Okay, I think we're live now.
maybe more, but
Okay. Talanka, if you'd like to go ahead.
All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with my body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. As the earth and the other elements, together with space, eternally provide sustenance in many ways for the countless sentient beings, so may I become sustenance in every way for sentient beings, to the limits of space until all have attained nirvana. As the Sugatas of old gave birth to the Bodhicitta and progressively established themselves in the trainings of Bodhisattva, so I too, for the benefit of beings, shall give birth to that bodhicitta and progressively train myself in that discipline. At this moment, my life has become fruitful. I have realized my human life. Today I am born into the family of the Buddhas. Now I am a child of the Buddhas. From now on, I will forthrightly perform the actions befitting my family. I will act so as not to degrade the faultlessness and discipline of my family. Just as with a blind man finding a jewel in a heap of dust, thus somehow bodhicitta has been born in me. This is the supreme amrita which destroys death, the inexhaustible treasure which removes the world's poverty. It is the supreme medicine that cures the world's sickness, the tree which provides rest for the weary, the tree which provides rest for beings weary of wandering in the paths of existence. It is a universal bridge on which all travelers may pass over the lower realms. The rising moon of mind which dispels the torment of the kleshas. It is this great sun which puts an end to the obscurity of ignorance, the pure butter which comes of churning the milk of the holy Dharma. For travelers wandering the paths of existence, seeking happiness from objects of enjoyment, it is the supreme bliss near at hand, the great feast which satisfies sentient beings, today witnessed by the protectors. I have welcomed the sentient beings, and Sugatas, Devas, and Asuras rejoice. May all Mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from the suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the attachment and aversion. May all Mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from the suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the attachment and aversion. May all Mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from the suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Avalokiteshvara, while practicing deeply with the insight that brings us to the other shore, suddenly discovered that all of the 5 skandhas are equally empty. And with this realization, he overcame all ill-being. Listen, Sariputra, this body itself is emptiness. The emptiness itself is this body. This body is not other than emptiness, and emptiness is not other than this body. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and the consciousness. Listen, Sariputra, all phenomena bear the mark of emptiness. The true nature is the nature of no birth, no death, no being, no non-being, no defilement, no purity, no increasing, no decreasing. That is why in emptiness, body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness are not separate from self-entities. The 18 realms of phenomena, which are the 6 sense organs, the 6 sense objects, and the 6 consciousnesses, are also not separate self-entities. The 12 links of interdependent arising and their extinction are also not separate self-entities. Ill-being, the cause of ill-being, the end of ill-being, the path, insight, and attainment are also not separate self-entities. Whoever can see this no longer needs anything to attain. Bodhisattvas who practice the insight that brings us to the other shore see no more obstacles in their mind. And because there are no more obstacles in their mind, they can overcome all fear, destroy all wrong perceptions, and realize perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future, by practicing insight that brings us to the other shore, are all capable of attaining authentic and perfect enlightenment. Therefore, Sariputra, it should be known that the insight that brings us to the other shore is a great mantra, the most illuminating mantra, a mantra beyond compare, the true wisdom that has power to put an end to all kinds of suffering. Therefore, let us proclaim a mantra to praise the insight that brings us to the other shore. Gate, gate, para, gate, parasam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, parasam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, parasam, gate, bodhi, swaha.
Oh, thank you. And it looks like everybody in the waiting room is here too. And Charlie, sorry to cut you off. I was focused on the controls, getting everything started. And I'd like to begin today by thanking everyone who participated in the retreat in whatever way they did. A lot of people volunteered behind the scenes. People drove, drove the people who were coming from out of town, helped in many, many different ways. So it was a wonderful experience to be together for that amount of time and to practice together and to have a number of people come. I think more than a third of the people came who were not from our Sangha. So to introduce some of the curriculum that His Holiness designed to new people as well. So we have been studying the lineage, and now finally we've gone through the Kagyu in general, and now we're getting to the Jigten Kagyu in particular, founded by Lord Jigten Sumgon, 808 years ago. So it's remarkable to be a part of something that's carried on so stainlessly, sometimes is the word we use, to carry the accumulated teachings and the teachings of the people who came before and after Lord Jigten Sumgon, and have that whole body of wisdom accessible to us. So just to help refer you for more information, Calling the Lama from Afar, Prayer Flags, and a new book, The Sublime Speech of Jigten Kyopa, Kyobpa, as well as his major work called Gomchik, Gomchik or Chig. There's some good translations of that available too as well. So these are all translations of some of his teachings. We left off with Pegmo Drupa, and we'll start with Lord Jigten Sumgon arriving. And one of the remarkable things is he was not with Pegmo Drupa a very long time. It was near the end of Pegmo Drupa's life, and I think it was under 3 years. But when he arrived in the Sangha, Pegmo Drupa said, "Oh, now my students are complete," as though he was waiting for Lord Jigten Sumgon to arrive. And in that time he was there, poured all of his teachings into him. And although Pegmo Drupa had many remarkable students, 8 of whom started a lineage that's was very active for numbers of years. I think right now there are 4 surviving lineages in this period. But just to say, there were many strong and wonderful students of Pegmo Drupa. But when Pegmo Drupa died, he indicated that Lord Jigten Sumgon was the one entrusted with the full wisdom to carry on Pegmo Drupa's monastic seat, and should there be any questions, to refer them to Lord Jigten Sumgon. So each lineage tells the story, and I'm sure in their own ways, but that's how it was passed to us. And I know we're talking, words that are strange sounding, in lineage that began so long ago, but it's important to find a way to relate to it in this time. And one of the good things about the books I mentioned and the way we're going to work with it today is to find one poem or one small teaching that you can relate to and contemplate that poem. And if you can contemplate one poem and get meaning in your life from that one poem, then you have a connection to Lord Jigten Sumgon. And I'm going to start with a very short, this is a supplication to Lord Jigten Sumgon that is in a lot of the prayer books of the Drikung centers. Unequaled refuge, ornament of the world, your fame pervades the 3,000 worlds. You are the victor, Vajradhara, without a doubt. I bow at the feet of the Father, Lord Jigten Sumgon. And it's the second verse that is poignant, you might say. Continually, I think of no one but you. Compassionate one, grant your blessings. Dispel the darkness that surrounds my heart. Please bless me so that I realize the unelaborated nature of mind. So that quality of his aspiration and blessings for all of us to realize the nature of our mind exists as blessings coming to us in the future, but the lines, please dispel the darkness that surrounds my heart, bless me so that I realize the unelaborated nature of mind, are just so clear and speak to why we're all meditating, to realize the nature of our minds and dispel the darkness that surround our hearts, with the intention, of course, of benefiting beings. So I think in my personal history, the first, I've been studying Buddhism, quite a while, 5 or 6 years, but the key was when I met His Holiness Chetsang Rinpoche, and the first teaching that he gave was the loving kindness teaching that we do so often here, Lord Jigten Sumgon's teachings on loving kindness. And the significant thing about that particular teaching was that it was an expression of when he was sick and near death, how his enlightenment, his full enlightenment, came at a very low point, as I was saying, near death. And it was this profound experience of emptiness, compassion. And after that experience, he wrote the meditation teaching on loving kindness. So there was a connection to his particular experience and that practice that we all find so beneficial and so helpful. And today I want to go into that moment. I met His Holiness just after I finished chemotherapy. So I myself was recovering from cancer and from a very serious illness, chemotherapy and radiation. So the low you can get after 8 or 9 months of continuous teaching, you're very, very fatigued. And recently, although that story is in many of the books, this poem comes from a book that was recently published, the Sublime Speech book. It's a collection of short teachings of Lord Jigten Sumgon that Dorlep Rinpoche, Dr. Lai, worked on during COVID. I'm going to put that in the chat box so that you can follow as I talk about this particular poem. And thank you. A lot of the books are available from Vajra Publications. And the formatting got a little confused. And it won't send. Okay. I have to send it in sections. Okay. Here's section number 1. Here's section number 2. Nope, still too big. Oh, this is, and I'll send it to Annie later. So I'm going to read the poem to you. Son, I have sought out a precious and authentic guru of the Vajra vehicle of the secret mantra. Perceiving him to be Buddha in person, I have received many complete empowerments from the mandala of the Venerable One's exalted body. He blessed me with his exalted speech and mind and granted me oral instructions for practicing the path of the abiding nature of both body and mind. I practiced the true nature of both body and mind and thereby gained experience in the meaning of non-duality. At that time and under those circumstances, I did not have the opportunity to rely on him long before the protector of the world passed into nirvana and my mind was tormented beyond endurance. So we see that quality of devotion and the loss of our spiritual teacher. I'm going to try again with the sections because I want you to have it. So after Pegmo Drupa died, Lord Jigten Sumgon went into retreat, and he was in retreat, I believe, for 7 years. And at a certain point in the retreat, he contracted leprosy. And at that time, leprosy was, we could compare it to cancer, or we could compare it to AIDS. Not only was it life-threatening, deadly, no cure, but there was a kind of shame if you're such a great Lama, if you're so, how is it you're getting sick, essentially. And so no one would help him. And there's an incredible story that he was running out of food and he went into town to ask his sponsors, to apologize, to say that he couldn't finish the retreat without leaving to get medicine, but could they help him? And no one would help him. And then you see him go back into retreat. And when he went back into retreat, there's a sentence in his biography that he was so sick that even though he could collect rainwater, he couldn't lift his head up to drink from the bowl of water. So he really thought he was dying, and there was a quality of despair in terms of not fulfilling all of his life purpose and the accomplishment, the final accomplishment, not to mention bringing the benefit to beings with his capacity to teach. And he set up his altar and he was ready to do poa, which is what you do at the time of death, ejecting your consciousness into the heart of Amitabha. And the Chenrezig on the altar, the statue of the emanation of compassion, Buddha's compassion, Avalokitesvara or Chenrezig, fell over and startled him. And it said that in that moment, his heart open to the suffering of sentient beings, just not only the sentient beings, but as we were discussing in retreat, the relative bodhicitta towards people who are suffering in this moment, but emptiness and compassion, the vast understanding of complete realization is beyond time. So it would be past, present, and future, and a mind that doesn't separate into meditator here and sentient beings over there. So the profound experience of holding all time and space in union of compassion and wisdom. And after his enlightenment, it was a process that went on, for a day or two. He didn't want to say that it was so fast. So he wrote a poem after enlightenment that might have said something like 4 days. He didn't want to shock people, but it was this, as we often say, a realization. It's like, if the last veil of ignorance drops away, then your experience is this vast emptiness and compassion. But he could see illness in the form of we call them nagas. You can imagine like a cloud that looked like a snake leaving the valley. And he stayed in retreat, but then started teaching this compassion practice. And all the lepers in the area came to hear his teachings and were cured of leprosy as well. So it's reaching back in time 800 years to have this bodhicitta practice that we spent all winter on. Its efficacy has not ended with his teaching it directly. It's been carried to us as well. So this is a slightly longer poem. I think I have one more section to go in the chat box. Oh, goodness. I'm sure there are gaps. It will only take a certain number of letters before it won't send the message. Let me try again. Okay, as far as I know, you have pretty much the whole poem. So here he is, thanks to the blessing of his guru, Pegmo-Drupa, and the entire lineage of the Kagyu. You hear him praising all of the lineage that we've been speaking about over and over again. You can imagine the gratitude that we have towards the lineage and the particular person who has unlocked that last realization. So one of the lines in this poem, after he finishes praising Pegmo-Drupa, of course, the best form of gratitude to offer a teacher is then going into retreat and accomplishing the teachings, because then, that's why you were given them, and then you can pass them, your own realization, on to others. So there's this beautiful line about how to think about illness. And the line is, through the sublime Guru's kindness and my own unceasing diligence, the negative karma of misdeeds and defilements that were accumulated from time without beginning came to full maturation, and so I was struck by the difficult to cure illness, leprosy. So this understanding that everything we experience is our karmic seeds blossoming, and that when we are in a situation where we have the full Dharma teachings, that if we really contemplate it, the circumstance of illness or any other very big obstacle that you're facing, it's the blessing of the Guru's kindness that you're able to see it for what it is. You're able to work with it because you have the tools to work with it. And you can take it as a teaching on compassion and emptiness rather than a reaction to it of despair or why me or any of those ways that we react to difficult circumstances when they arise. But his heartfelt response that this is the blessing of the Guru, and the karma that needs to be cleared in order for full enlightenment to occur. And then he goes on a little bit more. Thinking that it would be better to just die, I became a beggar and left behind in the wilderness of a mountain hermitage with neither books nor instructions anywhere near me, and not a single person who inquired whether I was sick, and no one to administer mantra or medicine to me. At that time and under those circumstances, with devotion devoid of any pretense to my Guru, the unrivaled protector, I relied on unceasing mindfulness within the samadhi that recognizes illness as mind. Within 3 nights and 4 days, my negative karma was effortlessly purified. I understood this as a vital point of the dependent origination of cause and effect. So when I say contemplate a poem and find a way to relate to the story of these masters to make a personal connection to the lineage, there's that sense of when essentially anything else he could have relied on had dropped away. No more friends who could help him, no one who cared enough to see how he was doing, no medicine, and calling out to his Guru. And, when I say that the blessings are active in the present time of these great lamas who've passed before us, there is a direct experience of that being described. So in my life, thinking of how I call out to His Holiness Chetsang Rinpoche, and actually, I have to say, in the most recent cancer that I had, the surgeon was with me, and they were ready to wheel me into the operating room, and he spontaneously called me. So when our devotion is connected to a great teacher, it's not an imaginary connection. I'm there, they're wheeling me in, about ready to do surgery, and out of the blue, His Holiness Chetsang Rinpoche just spontaneously called. There's no way to describe the lineage connection and the Guru connection other than it's tangible and present in our lives. And in the same way, he was calling out to his teacher. And we read about Milarepa calling out to Marpa, and Marpa appearing in a dream or appearing in the clouds in the sky. It's not making it up. It's a heart-to-heart connection that develops over time. So then he describes a little bit about, well, I'll just keep reading a little more. The treasury of profound secret mantra having revealed itself, my clinging to the distinction between meditative equipoise and post-meditation was purified into the great non-dual luminosity. So he's talking about a stage of understanding where, sometimes we have experience sitting on our cushion and then it drops away. We come back after the retreat, or we do the dishes. We forget about what we were understanding in meditation. At a certain point, that drops away, and there's no distinction between meditation and non-meditation. So he was able to be in that emptiness, compassion, luminosity state every moment. And then I'll continue. As I wondered whether I was a lord of yogis, I saw the fierce negative karma of leprosy was an oral instruction on emptiness and compassion. This has come to be renowned as driving away leprosy. So one of the instructions in this is something we were talking about in retreat. The fierce negative karma of leprosy was an oral instruction on emptiness and compassion. So he used the appearance of an obstacle arising in his life, this great incurable illness. And then, in essence, it's moving from relative bodhicitta to absolute bodhicitta. So in the compassion training we've been doing on loving kindness or Tonglen, it's considered relative when we're thinking of, I am sending compassion to you. I'm sending prayers for you. I'm sending prayers to Palestine. There's an object and a sender and something being sent. When it moves to absolute, it's a being. It's continuous, spontaneous, uninterrupted, and a beingness of wisdom and compassion, no longer the need to have an individual sentient being or group as an object. It's just continuous vastness, emptiness, and compassion that shines like the sun. So we think of the sun as an example because the rays don't have to think, am I going to this field or that field? It just continuously sends rays of light. It just shines. There's no need, oh, those people are there deserving, and oh, those people dropping bombs are not deserving. It's just vastness of compassion radiating. The next line then points out his understanding that this realization or connection, this realization or opening to full realization was due to the connection he had to his teacher. In the same way, we're receiving instructions in a lineage, and I can say, the retreat curriculum is so profound and wonderful because it's coming from His Holiness. I have profound gratitude to him and know that my understanding is coming from him. And my meditation experiences are due to his kindness. So there isn't any ego involved. It's just this open-hearted gratitude to the whole lineage and to the particular teachers that you've worked with, because they were the ones who opened your mind and planted the seeds of the Dharma in your mind. So we think of having gratitude to anyone who's passed us a word of the Dharma or even a syllable of the Dharma, but particularly to our root guru or heart guru. Then he continues, thus I resolved to serve the masters of bygone times by training in the life examples of their exalted body, speech, and mind. I have not performed chakras of meat and beer with conduct driven by craving for consumption. And so I have at least managed not to disgrace the protector of wandering beings. In the Tibetan tradition, there's the feast tradition. And just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about the wonderful young lamas, Pagmo Drupa, the first Karmapa, Dusum Kempa, and I forget the name of the third one who sort of evaded the monastic discipline of having just the taste of alcohol and got, several jugs of alcohol for their feast, for their Vajrayana feast. And sometimes all of a sudden the exception to vegetarianism would be in the feast, in the feast, you practice learning non-duality. And so sometimes people use beer and meat as part of the feast. But he's saying he's not touching alcohol or meat even for these great feast gatherings that we have. And then in the monastery, you'll see like a mountain high of little bags. Everybody goes home with fruit and candy and all those things. It's all been blessed for the feast. Now, mainly they take that out to and offer it to, hospitals and orphanages. But, you can see all the little kids wanting the candy, the young monks and nuns wanting the candy from the feast. So not only not meat and beer, but not driven with craving for consumption. So not even the candy in the feast have touched his mind stream. And saying, that through his lifetime of teaching, he hasn't wavered in his virtue. So managed not to disgrace his teacher in any way. And then it concludes, now, even if I am to die, I will have no regrets. Now, even as I grow old, I'll have no fear. Presiding over the gathering of groups, I will not be partial towards my disciples. Neither will I engage in accepting or rejecting samsara. I will not explain the Dharma to gain wealth. I will take up the burden of the masters of bygone times. And there may be some slight misspellings in the text because I did a audio dictation to get the prayer into words. So I think you'll notice the small errors here and there. So, we see, truly we see that there are spiritual teachers who get confused and want more and more big cars. And they're saying, well, think of me as the Buddha. So you want Buddha to be in a palace and all those things. It's, people get confused. And so he never allowed any of that confusion to accept his mind. So for instance, when the Dalai Lama gives a huge teaching, he never accepts any of the income. And before the closing prayers, whoever is organizing it has to present a full financial statement that shows if there was any leftover, what charity that leftover fund is going to. And Garchen Rinpoche operates the same way. In the old days when he was traveling, of course, many people would show up. He's so beloved. And when you then, as the host, made the offering, of gratitude to him for all of his Dharma activities, he would then give it right back. So, and it really is why we operate by generosity and the dana principle is right in that line. I will not explain the sublime Dharma to gain wealth. We of course need the practical support to keep going, but there's no quality of trying to gain wealth and keeping the Dharma pure in that way. Taking up the burden of the masters of bygone times, these great masters have then gone on to devote their life to teaching and to the welfare of sentient beings, gathering students, but not preferencing, the nice attendant versus, the new student who walks in the door. So not choosing favorites and making sure, and this is huge, he maintained Pagmo-drupa's monastery, made sure it was running and had, wise enough abbots and education system. So Pagmo Drupa's teaching went into the future before he established his own monastery, developed his own teachings, which then were passed into the future. And then seeing that the lineage, the whole Drikung lineage, which is the Drikung lineage, but then going back to Gampopa, Milarepa, Marpa, Vajradhara, that all of it is passed in the future, and we're the beneficiaries of that. But it's this, this incredible commitment. We see His Holiness Chetseng Rinpoche taking responsibility for the whole lineage and the vast teachings moving into the future. In gratitude, I am assuming, to the lineage himself and his teachers. So you don't have to make this commitment. It's rare that someone has the capacity to make this commitment, but then making the commitment. This is 800 years later that we have all of these teachings. And then this is, it's an expression of humility that comes next, but I have a good laugh with some of my friends who are teachers. I have at least not managed to become a disaster-producing demon, damaging the teachings of the protector, the lion of the Sakyas. Not letting any kind of fault enter the teachings, no big mistake entering the teachings. In fact, it said that when he would visit other monasteries or wherever he was, he would always settle disputes and never create factions or encourage disputes arising. But that quality of humility, say, well, I've done my best, and at least I haven't become a disaster-producing demon. It's hard to even imagine that level of humility from that great person. I could say that more honestly myself. I've managed, that would be maybe a reasonable humility on my part, but this great being saying, at least I wasn't a disaster, damaging the teachings. And then closing with, now, even if I am to die, I will have no regrets. Even as I grow old, I will have no fear. So often from time to time over the years, I take one poem or read one poem of his students as a way of cultivating a relationship with this person so far away in time. And it's a slow, steady opening. Devotion is like that, not, snapping your fingers, I should be feeling something, or I met this Lama, I'm going to be in this lineage. Where's this devotion I'm supposed to have? It's not something we're supposed to have. It's something we build in a relationship, both in our practice and learning the life stories, and in the life stories, appreciating the particular way that they came to enlightenment and the magnificence of their commitment and the accomplishment of their commitment. So that's, I might talk a little bit more about the general life of Lord Jigten Sumgon next week, but I wanted you to have a sense of how you start making a commitment. It can be just one line, like, please dispel the darkness that surrounds my heart. And, carrying that and thinking of the beauty of that, and, just beginning that aspiration connection, or we would say it a supplication for the blessings. So, we'll do the dedication and stop the live stream. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.